Hey guys, it's Matt. It's Boss Man, aka Matt from Tag Talkers, and guess what, guys? We decided to finally climb back in the ring.
Yeah. Hey everybody, it's Nutty Rock Chick.
So now that we're back to doing videos, and I'm sorry if this seems jumbled and I don't have my video on. Google seems out of sync today with my voice and my video, so you're just gonna have to deal with our lovely picture here. But since I finally have a new device and I'm able to really do videos with Nutty again, we figured, like I said, we would climb back in the ring, so to speak. So since I won the coin toss and we're leading, I just wanted to a video kind of encompassing all of our thoughts about what's been going on with WWE recently. So let's start out with actually the most recent and bigger news in the company right now, and that is Roman Reigns will be defending his WWE Championship in the Royal Rumble match itself. And right now, it seems like they're trying to do whatever they can to top Royal Rumble 1992 because hardcore wrestling fans still talk about that Royal Rumble pay-per-view being the best Royal Rumble pay-per-view to this day. And for some reason, I just have a feeling Vince is trying to top it. And the only way you can top it is by having the champion defend the title in the match for the very first time, because it's never happened.
I don't know. To be honest, I think a big chunk of the reason that everybody loves 92 isn't specifically the match, it's the commentary. And this generation doesn't have a Bobby Heenan.
They don't, but there could be one in the making in Corey Graves, but I don't think Corey Graves is going to get a call up to the main roster for the Royal Rumble.
I don't know. I like Corey Graves. I also love Renee Young. I think she's just adorable. She is very, very cute. And she's very good at sort of playing the line of asking, especially on her Unfiltered, of asking questions, but asking them in a way that's safe enough for WWE, but still a little bit edgy. I've got a lot of time for her. I think she's very good.
Yeah. I love Renee Young, and I hope that they give her more to do, because she would like more to do, and she's one of the only women in WWE right now, besides, the Four Horsewomen, which includes Bayley, of course, that I never want to see Renee Young leave the WWE. She is probably my second favorite commentator of the whole company, but she might be slightly knocked down to 3 soon because of the new addition to the SmackDown crew, and we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, also, I suppose the biggest news of the moment, other than the Rumble, is I mean, we will get back to the Rumble because there's lots to discuss, but Sting going in the Hall of Fame, I think, has got everybody talking.
Yeah, as soon as the news broke, I mentioned it to you, and it was, an hour ago or so before we decided to get this whole thing going. But, the only thing that bothers me about Sting going in this year, like, I had a feeling it was going to happen because he lives in Texas and whatever, but I hope that that doesn't mean that he won't maybe do another match once he heals up. But then again, with his injury, I don't know if WWE will ever let him back in the ring anyway. So I just think maybe, as much as I don't want it to be, they might be having him go into the Hall of Fame this year as almost like a capping off of his career.
Yeah, I can see Sting going in, especially if they decide to do a retirement match with Sting. That would make a lot of sense. The other thing that everybody's sort of holding their breath on since we got the DVD is whether we're actually going to get Owen in the Hall of Fame. And if Owen goes in, obviously we all know that Davey Boys put a caveat on that he wouldn't go in unless Owen was going in. So we could get two true legends going in with Sting, which could be a very, very cool event. I think there's a lot of the older school fans would be, I think probably the only name that they would want to add on to that would be the Freebirds, because obviously they've been joking about putting the Freebirds in for so long, because Michael keeps saying, no, you don't really have to. And I think they really do, because they were very much an important part. So, yeah.
Well, the whole thing about the WWE Hall of Fame is that many people make fun of the WWE Hall of Fame and say that it's not a true Hall of Fame and all sorts of different stuff. But the thing is that Vince McMahon, for all those who have positive things or negative things to say about him and about the WWE is now the historical society of wrestling. And
somebody was saying the other day about how they wish Vince hadn't bought WCW, and the one thing I said to that is, yes, there were a lot there. You would have, if WCW had survived, we would have had more competition for longer. But I'm very grateful in one way that WCW was bought by WWE, because of all of the having all of the video and not having lost that. I think that's having the video history of WCW and ECW preserved. I still think sort of outweighs in a lot of ways, because I think it would have been a shame to lose all of that footage.
Oh, I totally agree. And the thing is, for all the fans that say, well, if Eric Bischoff and his media backers had a chance to buy WCW, they would still be in business today, and, it would, and things like that. Well, you don't know that. We don't know if Eric Bischoff's plan of taking WCW off the air for such a long time, for 6 months, and then putting it back on the air and relaunching it would have done anything. I think at the time that Vince bought it, WCW was such a messed up brand, in the eyes of the public, that I don't think anything Eric Bischoff could have done would have fixed it. I think the only thing he could have done is just started a brand new company with those guys in it, yes, but under a different name. But
we have a cat video bomb at the moment,
and we don't care about that. Miss Leah can make an appearance whenever she wants.
Yeah.
But so I don't know.
Yeah, so to the Rumble, I mean, there are lots of things that I want to see in the Rumble. Whether I'll get any of them is another thing. I'm not so interested in the returns aspect of it. I know they brought back Jericho. I presume they're going to utilize him for WrestleMania, which is why he's been brought back. I particularly would like to see Jericho Kevin Owens feud. I would be very interested in that. But in the same token, I'm very much hoping that Sami Zayn is going to make his re-debut at the Rumble, and that will spark Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn going into WrestleMania. There's also a lot of talk about the Bullet Club coming in. I know that although AJ is on a as needed contract, so can be utilised straight away, the rest of the Bullet Club are contracted until January. The end of January, obviously. So they probably won't be able to do the Rumble. I'm not sure. They have, it's been released on ODQ that they have officially trademarked Balor Club, which kind of makes me think that they may be taking the bulk of the Bullet Club to NXT before it comes to the main roster, which would be sensible for Nakamura, because although he is extremely talented, much like Hideo Itami, they're gonna have to polish him down to make him less stiff and less. They're probably gonna have to slow him down a little bit.
Yeah, because I mean, the only person he could actually face if he stayed the way it was is Hideo Itami.
Yeah. Hideo's be back soon, shouldn't he?
Oh yeah, they're talking very soon, like a couple weeks, maybe end of January, maybe February, beginning of February, meaning. So I don't know. He could be another one that he's a simple surprise running at the Rumble and then does whatever he does in NXT, you know? We just don't know yet. So, what do you think about everything about AJ coming in?
I'm really torn. Obviously, from being an early TNA fan, I loved AJ Styles. He was very much my guy in TNA. If he's handled right and if they do it right, it could be absolutely epic. Do I have a faith that Vince can do that? I'm not sure. If he was in NXT and in Triple H's hands, I wouldn't have any worries, because Triple H, to me, certainly with the NXT brand, has proven his worth as a show producer. But I do feel that AJ, you have to remember that AJ now isn't AJ when TNA started. He has had a lot of injuries. I'm not sure that he could pull off everything he pulled off when he first started, but he seems to be doing very well in Japan. So I don't know. I want to be really excited, but WWE has taught me not to be a lot of the time.
Yeah. But here's what I'm thinking. If not this year, can you think about if everybody stays healthy and AJ comes in and we got, by this time next year, we have AJ, Samoa Joe, Finn Balor, Nakamura,
Sami Zayn. Oh, Jesus Christ.
and on top of that, Jay Lethal, who might be coming in too after he loses the ROH title. You know?
Yeah, I mean, everyone says like there's so many problems with the main roster, and yes, there are, but there's so much good talent coming in, and it's hard to watch NXT and then watch Raw because NXT is so good and Raw is so badly done.
Yeah.
That it's very difficult. I was actually having an argument with a friend of mine who's done some wrestling in the States, Steve DeMarco, and he, the awesome sexy Steve DeMarco, and we were arguing about the fact that I mentioned that if you add up all the hours of programming that NXT has between takeovers, and then you add up how many hours of programming Raw has between pay-per-views, it's actually the same amount of hours. And actually, Raw, the main roster actually has more because it has access to SmackDown, access to Superstars, access to main event, and yet they are not. The main roster doesn't seem capable of really creating matches that we care about, whereas NXT seems able to do it in less time, which I find sort of NXT is proving it can be done. I don't understand why that is not being implemented on the main roster.
Yeah, I totally hear you on that. I think because WWE has so much programming on the main roster they're trying to get out, they're not focusing on stories as they used to. They're just focusing on putting on...
What annoys me is, yeah, okay, fair enough. I don't understand why they have this messed up thing, because literally main event and superstars you can use to build and to showcase the lower card talent. There's no reason to have the top level guys on a superstars or a main event. So let give that to the lower roster guys, and then take SmackDown. Use SmackDown as the brand for the mid card, and use Raw as the brand for the upper card. It's not difficult to do. It really isn't. And with the hours the way they are, all they've got to do is create a flowing storyline. It's not difficult. NXT does it every week. And WWE's problem is they've not created stars for years and years and years. And the problem they're having now is they've conditioned their casual fans to only respond to certain people. They've conditioned their fans, their casual fans, to only expect 3-minute women's matches. They've conditioned their fans to only get excited by very extreme things. They've created a rod for their own back. The only way they can fix it is by streamlining and working out the product, because at the moment their audience is not reacting to anybody but your Brock Lesnar's, your Rocks, your Undertakers, your John Cena. They're starting to get into Roman. They react a bit for Dean Ambrose, which is good. They're starting to get their head around sort of Kevin Owens and Cesaro. Great. They popped for Jericho because he's old school. But the thing is, they need to do what is happening in NXT, where every single piece of the card people are interested in. And that hasn't happened in WWE main roster for since what? God. You've got to be talking mid-attitude era, when you had the crazy tag teams. You had Lita and Trish for the women. You had Rock and Stone Cold and Triple H with the main event. They've not had that card all the way through since the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
Sorry, I ranted. I apologise.
Well, now that Nutty's totally gassed, I'll tag in and say I'll agree with that and say that that's what WWE is kind of realizing now, and they're doing all these talent acquisitions like it's the mid-'80s because they haven't made their own stars. So they're taking what's left of the big names and throwing money at them, being like, come in, because we've just spent the last 14 years putting all our eggs in the John Cena basket.
Yeah, quick tag. Also, I would like to point out, for fuck's sake, people, stop dishing Tyler Breeze. I understand why you're doing it. I personally don't like his character, but he's very talented, he's very young, and he's a WWE made guy. If you don't support the WWE made guys, they're not ever going to get it sorted out. You've got to support the new talent if you want the new talent to be pushed.
Totally agree. And the thing that people don't realize is the reason why Tyler Breeze was in NXT for so long is Tyler never came from the indies. He came from WWE talent scouts were at some sort of event that he was at, and they brought him in to NXT and FCW straight off. He didn't learn how to wrestle on the indies. That's why he was down there for so long. He wasn't down there for so long because he sucks, because he doesn't. He was down there for so long because they first had to teach him how to wrestle. Then they gave him a gimmick that didn't work. So,
to be fair, they gave him 3 gimmicks that didn't work. He was about to be fired before he got the King of Cupid when it came up with the King of Cupid gimmick.
Yeah. So, you gotta give Tyler some. I give the guy a lot of props on that. That he was on the edge so many times, and he's there. And the thing that's most frustrating to me is, can you imagine how Triple H is feeling? Because he grooms these guys, he gets them ready, and they go up there and they're under Vince's control, and they just, Tyler hasn't fallen as flat as Neville. Thank God.
The Ascension, I think, is probably the worst attempt WWE has had at trying to use NXT people.
Yeah. And that's why I like Triple H's newer approach that we were talking about off air, so to speak. about how him saying to Vince, I'm not sending these people to you unless you have a set plan for them. And he's also said, I'm not sending them to you unless I know they're, excuse my language, unscrew proof.
Yes. The other thing that Triple H did, I mean, everybody, pretty much, most of the fans now have heard the podcast that Triple H put out about pre-NXT and the problems on the Raw roster. And he actually turned around and said, yes, there are problems. Yes, there are issues. Yes, this needs sorting. Yes, that needs sorting. And to be honest, I think he did it to twist Vince's arm, because Vince is very old school and he wasn't listening. It's the reason we lost Shane. Shane left because he couldn't get through to his father. We would have a very different WWE today if Shane had got through to his father.
We would even have a different entertainment landscape if Vince had done what Shane had wanted him to do back in 2001. And I'm sorry, guys, this is a tangent, but oh well. If Vince had listened to Shane and let Shane buy UFC back in 2000, could you imagine how different the entertainment landscape would be if Vince had WWE and Shane had UFC? It would be a completely different landscape, because it would be father and son competing against each other. And as much as Vince says we're not UFC and UFC says we're not WWE, they basically are the same thing. They're just actually pummeling the crap out of each other in UFC.
To be fair, there are significant differences, obviously.
And yeah.
In the same token, they are going for a very similar viewership, which I think is what you meant.
Yes.
We are aware that, like, WWE is apples and UFC is oranges, yes, but they're both fruit, is what we're saying.
What I'm saying is
they do attract a very similar demographic.
Yeah.
Especially with the Attitude Era fans are a lot of the UFC fans. Because it is UFC is this generation's boxing. I very much believe that. Whereas when I was a teenager, it was sort of Tyson was the big thing, and boxing was very much at the forefront. Boxing's still about, but it's not as popularized as it was, and I think a big part of that is UFC becoming something significantly more mainstream, I think is the right word.
Yeah. What I was going to say was that UFC is UFC and WWE are two different products, but UFC is basically WWE in its stripped down, most barbaric form.
In
my opinion.
Okay, I'm not going to argue your opinion because
what it is basically
I do it, but I do the basic.
They train, but while they're training, it's you hate this guy, so we're gonna fight this guy, and we're gonna kick the shit out of him, and that's what WWE was when the Attitude Era was hot, like Austin wanting to take Rock's head off and things like that. But what I'm saying is that, I know we got off on a weird tangent, is that the business is so different and society is so different. But if Vince actually, like, didn't try to micromanage everything, I think the company would be a lot better.
Yeah, it's something that I've been saying for a long time. People complain about the creative a lot, but it's an example that I've brought up again and again. In any job, no matter what your job is, if you're told to put something together and you put all of your energy into putting it together, and then you give it to your boss, and your boss changes it all, there's only so many times you are going to put effort into putting things together, because you will get sick of it. And the creative team have been in that position for, God, what, 7 years now? Where every time they set up storylines, they set up ideas, they give them to Vince. A few hours before Raw starts, Vince turns up, changes it all, and then you get what we've had on WWE main roster television.
Yeah.
You can't do that. I mean, I love Vince, but he is not helping his brand at the moment.
No, not at all. Because I'll put it in my terms of back when I did shows, I learned under a very well-known independent wrestler how to book shows and, how a rundown would go. So there was one show that I asked him if I could put the card together and time it out and everything. And he said, yeah. And I did that. And I put the lineup up, and he came in 5 minutes after the show was supposed to start and sat there and said, no, I don't want to do this, or this. And basically turn the locker room into F all, as we would say. And so, in that sense, when you do that to your guys, and they think that this is the order they're going in, and this is what they're expected to do, and then somebody changes it on them, it turns the whole thing into disarray, and every Raw show is an example of that. So, the next thing I wanted to touch on was the whole fact of Roman Reigns now being champion, because I find this hilarious.
Right. Okay. Roman Reigns, there are several things that I want to point out. Right. For a start, the way they brought him in wasn't particularly healthy for him. Now, yes, the Shield was amazing. Shield was great. The problem is you've got a guy with 3 years experience stood next to two guys with 15 years experience. So therefore, you've got a glaring difference of ability. So while they were shielding him while they were in a 3, the second they separated...
AKA the Shield.
Yes. The second they separated, the lack of experience on Roman became very visible. Now, what they tried to do was take a big-ass Samoan who looks legitimately badass and put him into an underdog storyline. Nobody is going to take that seriously. Yes, that works for a Daniel Bryan. It worked for a Shawn Michaels. It would work for a Dolph Ziggler. It would even maybe work for a Cesaro. But it doesn't work for the big-ass Samoan. It wouldn't work with a Samoa Joe. It wouldn't work with the Baron Corbin. It wouldn't work with an Apollo Crews. It doesn't work when the guy looks like a legit badass, because you cannot take him seriously as an underdog. The second they stopped treating Roman like an underdog and started treating him like a big badass Samoan and like a Stone Cold Steve Austin, like a badass character, the crowd started to switch, because they went, okay, I can get this, big Samoan badass. It's not complicated. This is what I find so frustrating. Wrestling, in its purest form, is very much a simple formula. Big guy, make him a badass. Little guy, make him an underdog. In between, you can make them technical, you can make them a high flyer. There's so much you can do. But it's so simple. That's what's so frustrating. What they need to do with a lot of guys is very simple. It's very basic, and it works. And the second they did it, the crowd started switching.
Yeah. And the thing that you and I talked about when it first happened was the fact that everybody says that, you know, WWE doesn't really have a lot of heels anymore, and which I understand, but I just found it hilarious that the fans, they don't like anything that Vince McMahon, you know, gives them or tries to force them to take. But yet, when Roman Reigns punches a 7-year-old man in the face, everybody loves it.
No, yeah, I do agree. But I think a big chunk of that was they kept trying to run Roman as an underdog. And they were bringing people in and saying, look, this person loves Roman as an underdog. Why don't you? Because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
The second he started acting like the sort of character you mentally think he should be, it clicked. It's not complicated. That's what I keep saying. Everyone keeps saying a lot of the fans that only really know sort of from post-Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression into this, aren't used to building stars, so they can't see it. All they can see is they've got a guy that someone's trying to force at them with in the wrong way. All they needed to do was flip it. The second they flipped it, people loved it. People started eating it up.
Yeah. Because, well, you bring up a good point, because back when I started watching WWE, when I was, you know, every week and whatever, when I was young, that was back in 95, 96. That was in the so-called lean years. But the guys that they had on the roster were Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, you know, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Owen Hart, British Bulldog. That roster was pretty much an amazing roster at the time. It was just business was down and everybody was a character. Like, if Kevin Nash was able to be Kevin Nash, like, in the NWO, and Scott Hall was able to do that in WWE, I don't think WWE would have had a down period, but Vince had to realize that. But when they left and they started building to the Attitude Era and watching that thing develop, watching Savio Vega, for example, turn from this Puerto Rican dude that was just in a vest and chains and a goofy haircut on the side of his head with a Puerto Rican flag, you know, watching him transition into the Boricuas group that he headed, and watching Steve Austin develop from the gimmick he calls the shit-ass gimmick, the Ringmaster, to Stone Cold Steve Austin. That was amazing to watch. I didn't find that boring at all. That's what made me so invested in him and still makes him my favorite wrestler of all time.
What's funny is what they did with Roman is exactly what they did with Rock, which makes me laugh because it's such a ridiculous correlation considering they're cousins. If you look at when they brought Rock in as Rocky Maivia, everybody hated him. He was a cheesy face with no personality. Nobody liked him. Second, they made him a badass and let him loose on the mic and let him be everything he could be. He became The Rock. That was all they ever needed to do with Roman Reigns.
Yeah,
let him be what he is. Don't force him to do long, funny promos. He's not meant to do long, funny promos. He's a big ass Samoan. All he needs to say is, "I want to kill you." End of promo.
Yeah.
I don't understand why.
Yeah, it's so.
They tried to put him in a box he's not meant to fit in, and then they wondered why people didn't react to it because it didn't make sense.
Well, it's so. Sorry, it's so funny that you mentioned that whole thing about the correlations between their two careers, because it didn't dawn on me until you said it. Because they did make Rock into this hybrid of his father and his grandfather with that cheesy gimmick, and nobody liked it.
Yeah, everybody hated him.
And I think Roman took a lot of Rock's advice probably and just pulled the same thing that, Rock did with Vince and said, "Hey, this ain't working. Let me go my own way. Let me do my own thing. If it don't work, you could do whatever the hell you want to do with me, but this ain't working."
Yeah.
By the way, what do you think about Miss Physical Assault Stephanie slapping him in the face 18,000 times every Monday Night Raw? That poor guy's cheek has to be physically hardened now. He's been hit so many times.
Yeah. It's fine. The one that really made me giggle was Stephanie's getting all hyped and angry and pissed off and doing that high-pitched thing that she does.
Scream.
And Roman says in the microphone, "Do you want to see her get really pissed off?" And he turns around and puts his back to her. And just stands there for a couple of seconds. And she starts going absolutely nuts. And he grins.
Yeah. Sorry.
Perfect moment.
That's the stuff that's going to get him over more than anything.
Yes.
Just not perceiving to the fans that he's not giving the office what they want is going to get him over with the fans. But the one thing I do want to mention, besides all this stuff, and we talked about the Rumble a little bit, is I want to mention NXT because that's the brand I watch absolutely every week without fail. Don't miss a thing. Because NXT is a perfect representation of how a WWE product can be run from week to week.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people say, "Oh, well, it's only an hour," and da-da-da. It has no bearing. The time, I don't think, has a bearing on it. I think the fact that there's simple storylines and the people are actually given time to work. Now, I'm excited still about what I see on the product, especially Apollo Crews. Love him. I don't understand at all why they did what they did with him in London at NXT London with losing to Baron Corbin, because to me that didn't stop his momentum dead like a lot of people said, but it definitely did slow it down a bit, which maybe that's what they were trying to do. I don't know, but it just seemed like a very weird thing to do with him. Like, either that loss was to slow him down a little bit, make him rethink, or it was to show that the rest of the roster that even a top guy with all this momentum and a rocket strapped to his ass can sometimes do a favor for another upper.
Well, I can answer that because they brought it up in Breaking Ground. They're still working on Apollo's promo skills. So they're trying to pull him back a bit to polish his promo skills before they push him forward.
Yeah. The other thing I will say is the guy that they finally debuted the week after the special with the guitar, I forgot his name now. I don't think that...
Elias Sampson.
Yeah, I like him in some ways, but I don't think the gimmick they gave him works.
I don't know. I think it needs a bit of time. I think it's quite clever.
Yeah, it's different. Which is why I need more time to observe.
Quite well. They're doing quite well at pre-introduction video packages.
Yeah.
Because they're not doing what they did with Del Rio, the mistake they made with him. Because by the time he actually came in, I was bored sick of him.
Yeah.
With NXT, the video packages they do are just short enough to keep you interested, but not make you get bored, which is great.
Yeah. The other thing I'll mention is Bayley's matches since NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. I thought that NXT TakeOver Brooklyn would be the pinnacle and she would just not be able to pull anything off as good or even in the good range like that again. But her matches, her second match with Sasha, it wasn't as good as Brooklyn. I don't think she could pull something like Brooklyn off again. Maybe if it's with Sasha at a WrestleMania, but, I don't know. But I will say her match with Nia Jax at TakeOver London, Bayley proved a few things. Bayley proved that once she gets to the main roster, if something happens with Charlotte, that Bayley could carry that belt and make any woman on that roster, including both Bellas at the same time, look like $1 million and believable. Because she took Nia Jax, and I have all the love and respect in the world for Nia Jax. I do. She made Nia Jax look like a monster, and she made you think Nia Jax was going to run through her. And Nia Jax, I thought I was begging Nia Jax to stop. I was yelling at the TV, and my wife's going, "They can't hear you, honey." I'm like, I know, but you're going to kill her. Yeah. But yet she pulled it out.
The thing that NXT does so well is they make you care, and they've got there isn't. I mean, a lot of people have criticised NXT London and that sort of like nothing major happened, but every single match you were invested in what happened in that match. They weren't for any bit. There was no big. There wasn't like a first time ever match on it. Okay, but even still, every match you cared about the people in it.
Yeah. Well.
In the same token, TLC, which was was pretty much the same month. Is that right?
Yeah, TLC was, I think, a week.
Like, out of curiosity, off the top of your head, can you really remember any of the matches at TLC?
The only one no, that was at Hell in a Cell. I was gonna say Taker Brock. No, not really.
That's the thing. But if I asked you about Asuka and Emma,
oh my God,
you remember the match. If I asked you about
Kaz and Enzo versus Dash and Dawson,
yes. The other singles match was Apollo Crews and Tyler Breeze.
No, it was no. It was Apollo Crews and Baron Corbin.
Yes, of course it was. It was Tyler Breeze one before. But the point is that the matches created more emotion.
Yeah.
And everybody knows, well, maybe they don't. The way something burns into your memory is through emotion.
Yeah.
If it causes you any sort of emotion, it burns in your memory 20 times more.
Yeah.
So if you've got a card full of matches that don't pull you emotionally at all, then you're not going to remember that card.
Yeah.
But every NXT takeover has created emotional reactions. A lot of people got pissed off about Enzo and Cass not winning. But what made me smile with that was they were upset that Enzo and Cass didn't win because they love Enzo and Cass.
Yeah.
It wasn't because it was badly written. It wasn't because it was badly boxed. It was because they were invested in the faces.
And they really...
And that is just, it's so basic, but it's so vital. And that's what the main roster hasn't got. Yeah. They have not got that. Like that. Apart from the New Day. The New Day are probably the only thing on the main roster.
I mean, this is going to sound silly, but are the New Day even still the tag team champions?
Yes.
Because I didn't even know whether they were still the tag champs or not. That's how sad that is.
You could take the belts off them. They would still be the only thing people care about in the tag title thing. I really want Enzo and Cass to go up because I want to see Enzo and Cass versus the New Day just because of promos.
Oh my God. Could you imagine what Enzo would say about the unicorn gimmick?
Yeah, it would be just so good to watch.
It writes itself.
I really want Enzo and Cass to get the NXT titles because I want Chad Gable and Jason Jordan together.
Yeah, the thing is that once Enzo and Cass go up and once Jordan and Gable go up, oh my God, the New Day, as much as I love them, they're going to have to raise their game. And so are the Usos. And so are Kalisto and
Sin Cara's out. So they're not going to be together. But they're actually doing what I've said for a while. And that's to let Kalisto be the next Rey Mysterio. He has the talent. He has the ability. He has the charisma.
Yeah.
He's more multilingual than any other Mexican guy they've brought in.
Yeah, and I don't think he's gonna pull a Mystic, or not a Mystico, the original Sin Cara, and break his finger in a match and call it off.
Well, yeah, exactly. The thing with Kalisto is his English is better than Del Rio's.
Yeah.
And he's got loads of charisma, and he appeals to the child audience in the way that Ray did.
Yeah.
He's the Mexican wrestler they've been looking for since Ray started heading towards the end of his career.
Yeah. And it's sad that we're talking about this because it is basically the end of Ray's career, but that kid's been wrestling since he was 16.
But Ray's happy. He's going to Lucha Underground, and he's going to help that company grow. That's fantastic. He's much happier. He's around a load of fresh faces, a load of kids that probably haven't really had a shot anywhere else, and he's going to help with the company.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, and because of how much he put into that company and everything, eventually he's gonna get WWE Hall of Fame and all that stuff. Because, and I'm saying this personally because I've met Ray. I've spent not a ton of time. I've spent a little bit of time with the guy. Great guy, wonderful guy. I felt bad for him because towards the end of his WWE run, they weren't really doing anything with him anyway.
Yeah, they weren't utilising him. And I think, to be fair, a lot of people blame Ray for the position he was put in. I would just like to say, for the record, I don't think that he had much choice.
What do you mean people blame Ray? I haven't heard this.
About the fact that he was given the Rumble win and the title because of Eddie dying. Honestly, I don't think that it was Ray's choice. I think Ray was doing his job and doing what the management told him.
Well, I can give you a teensy bit of insight on this because I actually spent time with Ray. The time that I spent with him was right after he had become champion. And, and we were actually, I don't know, it might have been before, I don't remember, but it was the exact time frame. But it was around that time frame and everything. And things were being talked about, and because of the people that I knew in the business, he had talked to me and told me, gave me some ideas where they were headed. And it's like he said, he wasn't given a choice to say no.
Yeah.
Because they weren't going to put the title back on Benoit after Eddie died. They weren't in a position to do that, and they damn sure weren't in a position to give it to Chavito. So the next best option was Ray. So they had to do what they had to do. Now, I give Ray a ton of credit because of what he did. Even though he was put in that shitty spot, he did a really damn good job with it, considering.
Yeah.
I
think, like I said, a lot of people try to put a dampener on everything that Rey Mysterio did because of the position he was put in. And I don't think that's fair. Ray's career isn't just that one world title win. And that one Rumble win. You've only got to go back and watch any WCW Rey Mysterio match and it will blow your bollocks off. Ray's extremely talented. Or even go and watch the SmackDown match for the Aussie title between Rey Mysterio and John Morrison. One of the best matches of that year. They showed exactly what you can do when you put two very talented guys in the ring together. It's frustrating because they never really, people put down Rey Mysterio for something he didn't have a choice about, and they don't appreciate him for everything he's done that was extremely good.
Yeah. And the fact is, too, like, and they didn't do Ray any favors when a couple of years ago he came back in the Royal Rumble that everybody wanted Daniel Bryan to be in, and he was the last entrant. That doesn't help either, you know? It's like, it's not on Ray, it's more on them and what they wanted to do. Most fans, even you and I to a certain extent, don't understand. They don't grasp that WWE is a business in the way that they should, in the way that when Eddie died, as crappy as it is, they were trying to monetize Eddie's death in any way they possibly could. Because not only would they get more money, but Eddie's family would get more money.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, they stuck to what they said. They said they would take care of Eddie's family. They gave Vicky a job for as long as she wanted it. They did the same with Chavo.
And they
stuck to their word, and I give them all the credit in the world for that, because I mean, you've only got to look at Jesse Sorensen with TNA, and Dixie promised him security and safety, and then fired him 2 months after he got medically cleared. I mean,
yeah.
Well, there are a lot of bad things to be said about WWE, but there are a lot of good things as well. I think, as much as, yes, there were a lot of mistakes, there are a lot of, everybody makes mistakes. We're all human. I think it's very easy to demonize, but the thing is that most of the time they are trying their best to maintain a business that's healthy, and part of that means taking care of the people that work for them.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And that's always been Vince's goal, as much as fans don't want to believe it. He really does believe that WWE is a family. And that's why he gives so many second chances and gives so much help to the guys that are effed up and need it and need rehab or need, whatever. They'll call you up and do what needs to be done.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of guys who like blaming WWE, but at the end of the day, I very much, as Kurt Angle showed, if you really, really needed to sort yourself out, you could walk away. Because he did. He made the decision, he walked away, he sorted himself out. I'm really hoping they'll bring him back to take him into the Hall of Fame. As he's taking a year off and then looking at his options. But yes, it wasn't a healthy environment. It wasn't a healthy environment for a very long time. They're trying to rectify that.
Yeah, they are, and that's the right thing to do.
Because nobody wants to see wrestlers dropping dead at 40. Nobody wants that. It's not good for the company. It's not good for the guys. It's not good for the image.
Yeah, and at this point, I think in that sense, Vince is just trying to right that ship and stop the flow of all these guys dying, because pretty much every big name wrestler from the 80s, aside from Hogan, if you think about it, every big name wrestler out of the 80s, and it just dawned on me, every big name wrestler is dead.
Yeah.
Except for Hogan. Because I was like, in my head, I just almost said, well, I almost caught myself saying, well, we still have Piper. And no, we don't.
Flair. Flair's the only other one.
Yeah.
Flair and Hogan, that's it. That's all we've got left.
And that's amazing, and that's scary.
And maybe, I suppose you can count Ted DiBiase in that. MRS.
Yeah.
But they were the lower they were lower mid card. They weren't main event. The main event, out of the main event guys, the only people that are left are Flair and Hogan.
That's so scary. You know.
Yeah, it's the people I was watching as a child.
And yeah, well, and Steamboat, but you know, it's like there's not.
Steamboat was the main event. Steamboat was only ever mid card.
Yeah, but the point being that there's not a lot of big name guys that we grew up with that are around anymore. I mean, I'm still shocked as shit Jake Roberts is still alive, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there are a lot of people that blame WWE quite a lot. But, I mean, you've only got to look at the amount of money they've put into Scott Hall, the amount of money they've put into Jake the Snake, the amount they've given to DDP because he helps those people. Basically, they've put in the best part of $3 million, putting Scott Hall through rehab. I think he's been in rehab about 5 times now. But they are genuinely trying to help those guys.
Yeah, because Vince never forced a pill or a steroid in them.
No, but in the same token, it was very much, if you wanted to hit the main event, you had to look a certain way. And as much as Vince didn't put steroids in their hands, he didn't stop them either. Which is why he's now taking care of those people.
Yeah. So, we covered a lot here.
Yeah, we've rambled at you probably for the best part of an hour.
So
we're going to love you and leave you.
Yeah. And we'll do videos more frequently.
Yeah. And I hope you enjoy the Rumble and everything else that goes with it.
Yep. And like I said, we'll do videos more frequently. You know, we'll try to get some more done together. And if we can't always do them together, we'll do, you know, some independently on this channel. But we definitely will do, hopefully, a Royal Rumble preview and a Royal Rumble rundown. And with that said, I'm tagging out.
And I'm tagging out.
And we'll catch y'all later.
Peace.